Traci.
Wulwyn. How are you today?
I am fine. It's 15th day of March, 12 o'clock Eastern Time, and 4 p.m. GMT on this beautiful day. What's the weather over there, Traci?
It's cold. It's cold. We were starting to go into the spring snap. Yeah, I know. We are opposite of you. We were actually in freezing temperatures. It's 41 degrees if I look at my computer. 41 degrees right
41
now
degrees. Oh my goodness.
here in North Carolina.
We are
Yep.
92,
Oh
93, pushing
God.
95, pushing 95. Wow. I love
Yeah.
it though.
It's funny because we're a little bit schizophrenic over here right now because I mean, like I said, we were starting to go and I mean we were like 70s, 80s. I think we had like a low 90 day recently. And I mean all the poor little plants are just like, oh, it's springtime. So everything starts to come out. And now then it's like, oh, it's freezing. So all of the tulips, are like, "Meh," and yeah.
Good afternoon to everybody out there. Good evening. Today is EP4, season 4. Season 3 was pretty short, 2 or 3, and then we jumped a year, and that's what I call time lapse.
Hmm. Yeah, freeze frame.
And we're on. But ladies and gentlemen, eavesdroppers, welcome. We are so glad to have you on. Please don't be shy. We continually say this, right? Don't be shy. Come on in, and your conversations with us enables us to it buoys us to another level. Trust and believe. And when you comment, we put something right down here, and it shows, and then we talk about you, right? So, right, Traci?
Okay. Well, we talk with you. We don't talk about you.
But
Or we do talk about you.
we
We
talk
just talk
about
with you.
we talk about what you wrote. But when the cameras go off, we go, that
And
Carl
then we
guy.
talk about you. No, I'm just
Yeah,
kidding. Yeah. No, we won't talk about you in front of you. We'll just talk
yeah.
about you behind that. No, that's not us. We were just kidding. So Wulwyn tells me behind the scenes that he was in a good mood. I think you definitely. So
And
what's going on? Like, is there a reason? Not that there has to be a reason for your good mood, but is there a reason for your good
the reason, so I will preface with rewind. I I want to always be in a good mood, and there shouldn't be a reason. A reason should be I am I am present. One, two, I am content in wherever I find myself. Right, like in this place right now where uh, the electricity could go, and if I was if my environment depicted my mood, all of a sudden I would get in a sour one, or like start fidgeting. But the reason I am in though, because I'm tempted to just be in the middle, right? Just stay centered, is hindrances are falling off. Hindrances are falling off. And when I say hindrances, I think we'll talk more about that later on. But and believe me, team, this is not Traci. I think we're good. I tell you, we're so good. This wasn't even planned, and here you go, drop mic, bang,
mood? You gotta get that old mic that you can drop.
bam. No, so the hindrances are removed. I always thought as a Christian, right, that I always I mistaken curse with hindrance. So
Mm.
the Bible tells us that curse is everyone who hangs on a tree. Christ died on the cross for us, which is a tree, wood, and he took all our curses. So I'm like, okay, cool. So when I hear about hindrances, I'm thinking they're synonymous, and they are not. Whereas hindrances are blocks, they are roadblocks, there are stoppages, they are hindrances, just thorn in the flesh. And I found out that I have the power with my words and my mind to overcome these hindrances. And once I referenced the Bible and saw that, the Bible says how the devil took Jesus when he was in his fast and prayer, took him up on the hill and said, "Hey, I gave you all of these things, and if you bow down and worship me, is a hindrance for him serving." He goes, no, he used the word of God. Paul, going to Thessalonica, he's hindered. Nehemiah, when he's trying to build a wall in Jerusalem, he's hindered. And I saw how they did it. It was prayer and strategy, prayer in action, faith in action. And some people think it's just prayer, right? And it's not prayer, it's prayer in action. So I'm doing prayer in action, and all of a sudden, things that were not materializing, things that were not manifesting, are manifesting, Traci. So I'm in a happy mood.
I love that. Well, it reminds me of a conversation I was having yesterday with my friend Jen, and she said something that I believe very deeply as well, is it's how we have relationships with things. I mean, we have relationships with people, but she was talking about the relationship with fear. And she said, I did this program that was really successful a couple of years ago around building, advocacy, or the type of relationship with fear where you're working with it, right? Which is really the ideal way to enter into challenge. When you're talking about hindrances, I'm thinking challenges, and challenges are there to serve us. We think of them as blocks. We think of them as things that are like against us, right? But they're there to serve us, because if everything were just simple and easy and there were no hindrances, there was no friction, we wouldn't have any traction, right? That we couldn't get, everything would just be, but there would be no forward, there would be no movement, right? I think in terms of like our vital organs, there's a certain amount of tension in our body that holds our organs in place.
So, yes.
If that tension weren't there, that again, about challenges, tension, our organs would just pop out of our body, which is not going to be a good thing, right? So we definitely want to look at the relationship we have with things like fear, challenge, anything that we could otherwise create resistance. Because what happens if you are resisting, right? You hold things in place, right? Just like the tension keeps our vital organs in place. Correct. So as soon as you release that tension, what happens?
You water.
You let go of the thing that's blocking you.
Yeah.
This is what's blocking. Neither side can move, but then you release that tension, and movement happens, right?
So you release that fear, release that.
You release the tension. Blockages are, we tense up, we defend ourselves against challenge, right? We resist it. Gotcha. When we're not resisting it, when we're working with it, when we're looking at it as a valuable asset to what we're trying to build, maybe it's trying to build us in some way. Then we release the resistance, which allows then the challenge to play the role it came to play. Right? Gotcha. So we're working with it. Like, I'll give you a good example. I had some stuff come up in the last couple of days that just, all this like kind of past stuff that I'm just like kind of was sitting in. And instead of trying to resist it, put it aside, or get too involved with it, I just sat with it. I've been doing this a lot with emotional stuff, recently, just sitting in it. And then during like my dreamscape time, right? So in dreams, I had all these vivid dreams last night. And all this clarity around the issues that I had been resisting for years, that I was struggling with, still they were coming up to the surface by just sitting with it and allowing it to be there, accepting it, just accepting it, not trying to rationalize it, not try to strategize it, not try to resist it and put it down, not try to just literally observe it and accept it, accept that I'm not in a great mood, because we can't always be in great moods.
Correct.
No, I mean, sometimes we're literally working through things that does affect our mood in not such a great way, but not resisting it allowed it to come through and deliver the information I needed. And actually
Mm.
it was like these epiphanies that I'm like, oh my God, I haven't seen that all these years.
Wow.
Right? There's
Wow.
truths that
Wow.
were available to me as soon as I stopped resisting. Because what it was is the messenger. Challenge is a messenger. If we resist the messenger at the door, if we like slam the
Mm.
door on the messenger can't deliver the message.
Mm.
And that's what the
Mm.
challenge is potentially, is a message. It's information we're meant to know about.
Mm. Mm.
Right?
Wow.
So I mean, I found that,
Wow.
and it's just interesting timing. I'm finding a lot of synchronicities in timing. I mean, yesterday, just I don't know if you've ever seen this. There's this. It's just random, but men and women's brains and how they work.
Uh-huh.
And there's
Uh-huh.
this really funny guy. He's a psychologist coach. I think he's also really much of a comedian.
Comedian.
And he does this whole skit, and it's an older video you can go to. If you just Google men's and women's brains, it'll come up. And
Okay.
and he does this whole thing with these busts, right? A man's bust and a woman's bust on the stage, and he's
Gotcha.
kind of standing over the man's head and saying, okay, this is the man's brain. This is how it's like all compartmentalized, and there's boxes for everything, and none of the boxes touch, and you're not supposed to. There's a box in the basement for the mother-in-law, and all these things, right? And it's really funny. And then he goes over to the women's brain, and he stands there for a minute. He's like, and then he goes into it, and he's like, and unlike the men's brains, the women's brain, everything's connected.
Everything. Spaghetti. A
It's
spaghetti
like
trail. Huh?
wires going. and
Yes.
and it's
Yes.
hysterical, but it's so true. And I had just been asking what came up in my conversation with Jen. I was like, have you ever seen this video? It's hysterical. I'm like, I'm going to send it to you. So I
Mm-hmm.
jump on my next call, and in the first 5 minutes, the guy I'm talking to is like, yeah, it's like men's and women's brains are different. Like men have and I'm like, what the heck? And then I asked him if he had seen the video, and he's like, no. I was like, okay, well, I'll send that to you too. It was uncanny. I mean, it was just kind of
Wow.
like, is somebody watching me? In those
Yeah.
moments when you're being tracked on your phone because you've just been on a website, and then you go on something else, and that thing you were thinking about buying is like following you everywhere you go on the internet. What the heck? Get away from me.
How did it know?
I
How
don't
did it
want
know?
you. I did not buy you for a reason. Past boyfriends, get out of here. Stop. I see you following me on social media. Go
Stop
away.
stalking. Stop. Quit stalking me.
You want to
So,
say something, but stop following me around.
look, so
Oh my God. It was
what's going on in your world? That was mine. What's going on in your world? How
Yeah,
are
well,
you?
so lots going on. This has been a busy month, I think, for everybody I'm talking to. They're like, oh my gosh, it's so crazy. But I think busy, but we use that a lot. Like, oh, I'm so busy. But
Mm-hmm.
what I'm finding is very true and in alignment with what you're saying, which is the hindrances are falling away. Like it's kind of occurred to me, the more I am recognizing me, this is what Jen and I were talking about, because we're putting together a collaboration and we're trying to
Okay.
figure out kind of what we want to focus on. And she does energy medicine. She's absolutely one of the most talented energy healers I have ever met.
Mm.
And it's fun. And this is
Wow.
the big thing. I always want to tell people, like, everybody's like, oh God, inner work. Like, how
Mm-hmm.
many people don't do it because they think it's going to be hard and it's scary and who knows what's in there. And I've got skeletons I don't even want to look at. And I'm like, no, like, and even when I tell clients, I'm like, this is gonna be fun, they're like, I'm not paying you to have fun. I'm like, oh yes, you are. You just don't know it yet. Like, there's a whole different way to approach this. But that's what she and I have in common, is that we can,
Okay.
since when is serious work need to be hard and serious?
Mm.
Since when is finding and discovering your true purpose, your true design, your true, way of being in the world?
Wow.
Since when does that have to be
Wow.
serious and difficult? Since
Wow.
when? And so we're really trying to breed a new offering, breed a new option
Mm-hmm.
to people coming home to themselves, right? To coming home to
Mm.
who you truly are and what you're here for. Right? That's the work I did at Butner with the men there. Is like, I mean, clearly you made misaligned decisions because you were out of alignment.
Correct.
That's what happens, right? When we're not being who we truly are, if we're not following our heart, if we're not choosing
Mm.
what truly makes us joyful, and we're telling ourselves these narratives and stories, it's like, well, it's because I have to make money, or I have to, or all these people rely on me. Well, first of all, I have a lot to say about reliancy models, because everything on this planet has been built and conditioned to be reliant. Yes, I have significance in your life if you're reliant on me. That is an old bill of goods. We need to start
Mm.
recognizing that creating reliancy and, in other people, right?
Mm.
I know I'll be loved and I won't be abandoned if you're reliant on me. I know I'll make money if you're
Mm.
reliant on me. If I sell you this
Mm.
drug and it keeps you sick, you will be reliant on buying drugs from me for the rest of your life, right? It's
Mm.
all these reliancy models, and it's not serving us. It's
Mm.
not serving humankind. And
Mm.
so, because then we're stressed. I talked to a potential new client today, and he says, I'm so stressed because I have so many people relying on me, right?
Wow.
So then the person themselves, who's the savior or the rescuer, or the one that, feels that they need to be, you know, relied upon, can't
Mm.
even function properly because they're
Yeah.
too much relying on them. And so, I shared with him a little bit about the disempowerment and empowerment dynamics, and shifting that. But back to my conversation with Jen, is that we want the engagement with self. We
Mm.
want the discovery of self. We want the discovery of the hindrances that we've been creating in ourselves
Mm-hmm.
to be a process that can be like fun and
Mm.
illuminating in a positive way. Like, oh my gosh, look at that thing there. Oh, and kind of like not making fun of ourselves, but having fun with ourselves. Like, oh my God, I've been so blinded to that thing. It's like when you're running around, you're like, oh my God, where's my phone? Where's my phone?
Yeah.
I lost
Yes.
my phone.
Yes. Yes.
You know, it's
Yes.
it's right there all along.
Mm.
And yet we've just been so caught up in other things, which we can laugh at. There's just a different way to approach it. And that's what we're really trying to, we can do actually even more work. We can gain even more traction, and we can get even further ahead when we're in joy,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
When we're
Wow.
when we're blissfully moving through it. It doesn't mean it all feels great, but why do people laugh in comedy acts? What makes
Mm.
people laugh the most? It's the hard stuff, because we know it's true. It's
Yeah.
when the comedian says something and you're like, I can't believe he just said that.
Yeah. The
You're laughing the
self-deprecating.
hardest
Yes.
because
Yes.
it's that thing that like everybody's thinking and no one's willing to say, and then they
Yeah.
just point right at it, and then they keep going,
Yeah.
and then they
Yeah.
just they just say what's absolutely on everybody's mind, and you're
Mm.
laughing your butt off because you're like, oh my God. It's because it's that stuff that actually makes us potentially tap into those spaces that are so healing. They're so healing.
Mm. Wow. Tracy, you so I'm going to, so I've heard you and I'm listening to, I'm doing a replay on this here. And someone who's listening, I'm saying to myself, instead of, and let me clarify, and I think I know what the answer. If you're asking, do I have to be laughing, or do I have to be very serious? I think the suggestion here is um, go in it with an open mind is what I'm hearing. An open mind, because you started with the when you show that visual. I got it right. I got pressure. These things are fight. You fighting the hindrance, and I think hindrances. I'm not gonna go there. You're fighting these hindrances, right? And then
And
once
they're
you let
fighting you
go,
back.
they're
They're
fighting you back.
fighting you back. You're fighting them, they're fighting you back.
And you're on there going, I want to switch this to me. Yeah.
There you go.
Uh,
Still in the
you
front
you
center.
you on there, and when you did this and you asked the question, let go. I replied as you were saying, let go. I said, become water. And becoming water was more, say, if the rock is there, the water comes and it goes and it just finds another way around the rock, right? It finds another way, and it erodes things. It makes
Mhm.
it makes hard things soft over time. So when these things come to us, when we are when we are when we are engaged, or when we are approached, or we find ourselves in the chaos or within the stoppage, the hindrance, when we can think, today I heard a brother, Pittman Kennedy, he was talking about spending time thinking, that the mind is, we tend to lower the value of our five senses,
Mhm.
and want to attain the sixth sense. Whereas when we use our minds and work on our minds, it improves, right? So when we can sit and think about, like what you said, lad, you sat in it, and just stayed in it, and then the dreams came. I think, Tracy, as I'm saying this, I think, and I'm going to go back to this. I think, you know how the body self heals
Mhm.
when you cut, and then you assist it by cleaning it, you assist it by putting some alcohol on there, and some of them you keep it dry, some of them you don't, some of them you stitch. I think, as you were saying that, and as I was speaking, it just popped to my mind's eyes. Your mind can self heal when you aid it to do it. Like you said, you aided it. You just sat in there and you go to bed and you get these dreams. Do you think you were creating those dreams? No, it's that spirit in you that says, I know how to fix this. But we can fight the spirit by saying, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to work it. I'm going to do it. And I think it self heals. What's your thought process?
Well, I love that. And I do believe that the reason the in the dreams the information came is because I wasn't resisting it anymore. I
There
mean,
you
again,
go.
as the messenger, like the hindrance or the challenge
Mhm.
shows up, knock, knock,
Yeah.
knock, and I'm supposed to open the door. You said be open, right? If I'm open, then
Mhm.
it can come in and deliver its message. But if it's knock, 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 and I come to the door and I'm like,
Yeah.
no, you are not coming in. I
Yes.
can't really. So part of creating that right environment for it to deliver, for it to, self heal, if you want to call it that. But like healing
Hmm.
ourselves is really about being in receptive mode.
Hmm.
And it doesn't mean we have to receive everything because,
Thank
sometimes
you.
we're not ready. I mean,
Thank you.
or sometimes, hey, it's not something we want to, if like, oh, that goes to the door, that goes to the house next door. Like that
Yeah.
doesn't belong here, like down the road. Um, I'm not saying we have to accept and be open to everything. I mean, that's what discernment is about. But
Ooh.
when we are meeting the challenge with equal challenge and with resistance
Hmm.
because we're uncomfortable, because we
Mm.
don't want to look there, because we know it's true, but that's
Wow.
that's pushing a part of ourself away. And when we're pushing that away, that's different than discerning, oh, that's not for me. And people say that all the time. They're like, yeah, but discomfort, like, isn't some of it like you want to resist some discomfort? I'm like, well, no, that's like you want to say no to the things that aren't for you. And
Mhm.
some of that will come up as a challenged feeling. Like,
Yeah.
you'll realize that something isn't for you because you'll feel that like tightening in your gut or whatever. Yeah, okay. But then if it's an emotion, and this is the key piece, is if
Mhm.
it's true discernment. Somebody was asking me this. They're like, you talk about the head, heart, and gut, and delivering the intelligence of each level. How do you know the difference between something that is legitimately not for you and something that you're resisting that is for you? And so that
Mm.
is such a great question. And like, first of all, if it's true discernment, which comes through your gut instincts, right? Your gut intelligence, your gut will tell you if something's for you or not. It's not emotionally based. It's actually
Mhm.
very black and white. You
Yeah.
just know something isn't for you. Now, you may not be ready to, like, it's that inkling, where like, oh, I took this job and I really shouldn't have. My gut is like telling me like that one. And I know there's been times that I took my position in Switzerland, for example, and my gut was screaming at me, no, danger,
Mhm.
Will Robinson, danger, back off, go off the cliff, do not jump. And I disregarded it. And it was, I mean, yeah, there was a great lesson and some good things came out of it. But whoa, did it put me through hell? And which is what happens when you go against your gut. But the thing is that it wasn't an emotional response.
Mhm.
It was a knowing. It was like,
Mm.
I didn't
Mm.
get emotionally wrought about it. It wasn't like, oh my God, no. If it's an emotional reaction, there's something there that needs to heal.
Correct.
And you don't want to
Correct.
resist that. Otherwise, you resist the healing. So that's the difference. If it is something that is just uncomfortable because it has a charge to it, it's a trigger,
Mhm.
it's married somehow to a past experience that wounded you,
Mm. Mm.
right? It reminds you of something that is just too uncomfortable. You don't want to go there. That is probably exactly what you need to, stop
To
resisting.
go in. Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
because you don't
Wow.
heal. It's just like what you were saying. It's like if I kept scratching that wound, it would never heal. And if we think about it, although that's an action, or if I just disregarded it, I didn't clean it, I did it, I just left it,
Mhm.
oozing with muck in there, like the dirt and
Mhm.
stuff, it would get
Yeah.
infected.
Yeah.
If I didn't deal with that infection, it would become worse. It might become gangrene. Then
Correct.
then then I don't cut, then I don't take care of that and I don't cut off the part of the limb that's gangrene, then it starts to spread and eventually takes over my whole body.
Yeah.
And that's what happens when we don't attend to these things. That's the guys at Butner. That's how they got there. They had been dealing with things that were misaligned and wounded and
Mhm.
not looking there, putting them under the rug. And then they became more misaligned because then that part of them became gangrene and then it started to spread. And then the more we are diseased, the more we make diseased choices that creates more of the same. So
The more diseased choices. Oh my goodness. Ay, ay,
dis-ease,
ay.
out of ease,
Yes.
right? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Gosh. Wow. Wow. I'm gonna marinate on that a bit. So to those of you, I saw a couple people just jumping on just now. You're shy today. You're not commenting. One, two. We're talking about hindrances, how hindrances are dropping off in this season. The second, right off that, we segue into not resisting the hindrance, the stoppages. It's us quit resisting and letting ourselves be free to think and understand, and then solutions come about. Uh, we're just Traci just completed this. Diseased people make diseased choices. Wow. So that when you were speaking earlier, and I remembered, I have an example. Um, Say a couple's having financial issues. They they know they need to sit to do the budget. They don't sit to do the budget. They keep crying about the financial issues, financial issues, financial issues. When they finally do the budget, when they sit and face the issue, the problem, they go, but we have money. It's just misappropriated. Bop, 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 bop. Boom. And then it smiles the rest of the time until you stop doing it. The key is facing it head on. But Traci, it's so I control that, right? I control it. And since I control it, I don't it's it's uneasy. It's uncomfortable for me to go and it sounds like I am into S&M. I want to go. I beat myself, kill myself, beat me. I don't want to take myself in that position. I don't want to put myself in that position because the beginning of it is very, very uncomfortable. But the end, solutions.
Yeah. And it's usually pretty simple. I mean, it's not always that complex, the solutions,
True.
you know, and people really get real with it. But I think part of the issue, and I've talked about this in the past, is the reason people don't want to go there with themselves, even, not to mention, you know, a financial planner or a therapist or whoever can, like, you know, is an expert that can help guide them through and support them as they're, you know, facing themselves,
Mm-hmm.
is that for so long we've eroded our own sense of self-trust. We don't trust that we can handle it. We literally, and this is all unconscious, you know, it's like with all those times, it's the boy who cried wolf, right? Like, oh, I'll do that thing for myself, and then we don't. I'm going to go to the gym and lose the 20 pounds that I need to lose, and we don't. We erode our self-trust. We say we're going to show up on time because people are starting to complain we're not, and we don't do it. We erode our self-trust. All the little ways. Oh, I'll get back to that person, and then we don't. We erode our self-trust. We finally get to a certain point in our lives, and then we're trying to really deal with the difficult stuff that we had kept batting away. We don't trust that we have the capacity to handle it. We totally do. It is totally limiting belief. But it's one that has been a pattern that is so deeply grooved and so unconscious. So we could say consciously, yeah, I can handle that. I know I'll get myself a planner and all this. But the reason we're not taking the physical steps to do it, to your point of it's faith and action, right? We say we have faith, but I also see a lot of people that speak faith and don't walk in faith. And this is not a judgment. It's just a reality.
Correct. Yeah.
Because we don't, some people call it worthiness. We don't think we're worthy. We don't think we're capable. Because we haven't proven to ourselves enough times that we are. We're more accustomed to where we've let ourselves down than where we've held ourselves up.
I'm typing here, and what I'm typing is we don't respect ourselves. We don't respect ourselves because if what you explained just now is I'm lying to myself when I tell myself that I want to go and exercise and I have to wake up at 5 a.m. The only time I have to do is at 5 a.m. 5 a.m. comes, the alarm clock hits up, and I look at it and I just. But I know I want the result. I need the result. That result is life changing. But I don't respect myself. I don't love myself enough.
Let myself down far too often. So
Far,
people say,
yeah.
what do I do? What do I do? I'm like, you start doing small things.
Hold yourself accountable. Yeah.
You start actually, instead of maybe going to the gym, run up and down the stairs a couple of times.
Yep.
At least you did that. That's better than nothing.
Yeah.
You know, do something for yourself. You know, follow through on little things. You start to slowly build. I mean, again, if something happened to my limbs and I couldn't walk for a year, and then I gained my ability to walk again, do you think I could just like start walking around everywhere? No,
or
my muscles would have atrophied, and I have to slowly build them back up.
Yes.
And so you do that. So once you, and this is why I say these things, is because once we take the unconscious and we bring some awareness and consciousness to it, now we can do something. Right now, these things, these drivers that have been unconscious all this time can't be in the driver's seat because, well, they can. We can choose not to do anything about it. But now that we have consciousness, we actually can do something. I mean, try to do something with something that you're not conscious of. There's no maneuvering that. Right. So once you know, then you can't not know. Now it's a choice. Now it's a conscious choice.
Yeah.
And we don't have to throw ourselves into, you know, go from 0 to 60. That's not effective. Right. It's taking the small things, taking the small.
set yourself up for failure by going from 0 to 60, because
For
then
sure.
you don't have the capacity to maintain, to sustain that which you have in your mind. Gosh, wow. So I think it boils down to me thinking and sitting in when I say this, it sounds so bad. It's like walloping in sloth or something, slop rather. But I think it's sitting. You, when you recognize it, then you can attack it. Then you can plan it. Then you can create strategies for it. But because we know it's there, we don't want to look at it. We as soon as we come near that door, we go, "Oh, excuse me,
That's right. Not that one.
I'm,
Not today.
not today. I'm not." And then your spouse is so it happens. It happens singularly. It happens with you as a single person. You have your issues, and then it happens with partners, right? You and your spouse when there's an issue. And we talked about the man and the women's brain earlier, where the woman's brain is like that spaghetti trail. He says men's are compartmentalized. I know that today at 5 o'clock, I'm getting to that house. I'm going to eat. I'm going to take the trash out first, sit down, eat, and then say hi to the wife, check off the 5 minutes. So, how are you, baby? Everything's good. Everything's fine. How's your day? And then right after that, I'm in front of the TV. I'm done. I'm going straight there. As soon as I get there and I start to do it, wife says, "Hey, babe, we have to talk." I'm like, "Boo-doo-doo-doo." I'm not touching that today, sweetheart. So all the
Come a plan.
it's not in the plan, because two things. I have a plan already, and two, one, I have a plan, and two, that thing you're talking, you want to speak about, it's about us growing, and it takes my energy and my time. And right now, I don't have the energy or time to do this. And then all of a sudden, she keeps saying it, keeps saying it, keeps saying it, keeps saying it. You're like, no, no, no. And then she's out the door, and you go, "But I love you." It's not about love, right? It's about
Mhm.
taking the time and sitting and looking and saying, how can I make myself better? What are they? I usually did this in the past. I need to start doing it. I would introspect and go, what's working, and then what's not working. What's working was quick. What's not working was hard, because I had to sit and when I see what's not working, then I go to one level below and I want to root cause it. And then when I root cause it, I'm like, that's what's not working. Okay. Now I have to start fixing from that root cause up to this level, so that the symptoms are removed and I can go ahead and do what I have to do.
I love that. Well,
Uh,
and I think, so when you were talking, I thought of something I read earlier, and I think the title of the article was uh, let let others be disappointed. Let others be disappointed. Because
mhm.
one of the things that this potential new client said to me, he's like, one of the things I'm like running around trying to make people happy. I feel it's my responsibility to ensure that people I care about are happy. I said, well, right there, that's never going to happen. And so it's unfulfilled. You can't fulfill that promise to yourself, right? And so it's an unfulfilled expectation is like right there, you're setting yourself up for failure, right? And I think unfulfillable is what I should really say. You can't fulfill
Mm,
that because it's not your job to make other
yes,
people happy. It's their job to choose happiness for themselves.
correct.
But the article talked about was the Oscars recently, where Angela Bassett, I think so. Jamie Lee Curtis, I think,
Hmm.
won Best Supporting Actress.
Okay.
And people have been, I didn't see any of this. This was just in the article. So if I'm getting any of this stuff
Yeah.
wrong, sorry. I'm sorry, people who can put it in the chat and correct me. I'm totally fine with that. But the whole point was people have been coming down on Angela Bassett because Bassett, if I'm pronouncing her name wrong.
What's that? I think.
Bassett. I thought it was Bassett too. Yeah. So because
Yeah.
when she heard that she didn't win it, she didn't clap for Jamie Lee
Jamie.
Curtis.
Uh-huh.
She didn't roll her eyes, she didn't walk out, she didn't do any of those things, but she was processing her shock and grief
Mm,
at not
correct.
winning herself, because obviously she had the belief that
She was gonna win.
She was going to win, not because she's
Uh-huh.
entitled necessarily. All of us, when we allow ourselves to go there, we're winning. We're on that stage. We're accepting the trophy. So in that
Yeah.
moment of disbelief, she was processing, and she has been thrown under the bus for that. Why? Because people are saying she's a sore loser. What is she supposed to do? She's supposed to just push aside her own feelings and be like, I mean,
I
how
know, and
often
fake
do
it.
we do that though? Let's think about that. Is our expectations of how we're supposed to act. So when you walk in the door and your wife wants to talk to you and you're not in the mood, maybe it's just about saying, can I have a couple of minutes? Like, I don't want to just say no, but I'm not quite ready to say yes either, because I'm trying to process what I had in my mind as plans.
Yes.
Like, it's
Yeah.
okay to be honest. And that's true partnership. Not where they say, oh, well, one person gives and the other person. Well, yeah, there is always that give and receive. But I think
Yeah.
at the same time, what I see lacking a lot of times is true in the moment communication about where we are and being really honest about that. Like, I love you. This has nothing to do with the fact that I love you or don't. This has
Yes.
to do with my expectations of this moment right now. And
State of
those
the Union.
are changing, and I wasn't expecting, and I just need to get the lay of the land. And can I get back to you
Yes.
on that? Or maybe can we talk about, like, is this a definite now thing? Or is
Yeah.
this you just want to talk about it thing? Like,
Yes.
right. So I think both sides I don't think we necessarily have to just acquiesce. One of my
Correct.
all-time favorite dislikes is when I see people, and I see it a lot with the men and women, the older couples,
Uh-huh.
where they have that certain dynamic where the woman's like, "Da, da, 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 da," and he's like, yes, dear. Yes, dear. Yes, dear. I'm like, stop with the yes, dearing, because I can see on your entire face and demeanor that is the
Face.
last thing you're feeling is the yes, dear.
Yes. Oh my goodness.
Stop that. Stop lying to yourself and the people you claim to love. That's
So
creating much resistance right there.
can we go back? I want to go back. I want to be two places at the same time, and I can't. So I gotta go back to Angela thing. I didn't hear that, but you know how people have gotten accustomed to being. People have gotten accustomed to knowing that camera is on you, so you have to always act like cameras are on you. Even in our lives, where every single moment someone has this waiting to videotape us, right? To just catch you in the act. And when we are true to ourselves, I always laugh, and I when Traci, ladies and gentlemen, we have Traci Phillips for um, best book. Ladies and gentlemen, Wulwyn Port for best trailer. And the winner is bam, Traci Phillips. Then Wulwyn is there going, oh, I have to clap. The camera is on me. I need. But my eyes are telling my heart and my eyes are telling the true story that I'm hurting, and we have to quit thinking about the cameras and think about ourselves first,
Yep.
so that we can bring. We talked about it in the last EP. We have to bring out the second to last. We have to bring our best selves every time to the table.
Yep.
And every time I fake it, Traci, every time I fake it, I think I'm eroding my self-esteem or something in my body.
Your self-trust. You're not being
Yeah,
yourself. We know
yeah.
that. We know when we're not being who we truly are. We know when we're not being authentic. The rest of the
No,
world just sees what they want to see. And what
this,
are we doing? We're performing for the rest of the world, and we're lying to ourselves.
yes,
We're eroding our
yes,
self-trust. What? For
yes,
what?
yeah.
Guaranteed, Angela Bassett,
Uh-huh.
in given time, would be gracious
Oh,
about her loss, but she needed time to process. Give
yeah.
the woman some time to process without jumping all over her in social media. So now she's lost and now she's being torn apart. I mean, let's just make something worse. Why don't we? But it's our societal need to put people in boxes, and when they don't put themselves in the rightful boxes, we are going to tear them down for that. Even if that box is not authentic to them, that box is not who they are. That box does not clearly show the value of them. If they don't go in that box where we expect them to be, we will tear them apart. We will push them out of society. We see this all the time. And I'm not talking about just now, I'm talking about historically speaking.
Cancel culture.
Oh my gosh. I mean, at least it's just cancel culture now. It used to be being burned at the stake.
Oh,
You
yeah.
would be
Yeah.
cast out of the tribe. I mean, it was
Yeah.
a lot more difficult.
Yeah.
But it's the same thing. It's the exact same thing. And what are we? And then out of the other side of our mouth, we're saying be vulnerable, be transparent, be authentic. But we need to make room for that in our culture. That's what diversity, equity, and inclusion is all about. Allow things to be different, but it's taking us time because, again, we've been doing this paradigm thing a long time. We've been doing this box thing, and you better get in your box, otherwise we're going to oust you thing for a long time.
Ooh, wow. Oh,
right?
but she's an actor. She's an actress. Let her act.
Good human.
She's always acting. Let her act like she's happy.
Good human. Those other things are not our sole role. Our sole role is the human, the soul in the body, the human.
Wow.
Right? That's a hat we might be wearing temporarily, but I'll tell you what, when she was told that she didn't win, she was wearing the Angela Bassett hat. The authentic, this is me as the human hat.
Yes.
And if we expect her to be anything but that, that's on us, not on her. She gets to be however she needs to be in that moment. And I think she was very gracious in allowing herself to be disappointed and authentic, and also not making a scene.
Correct.
Will Smith.
You know, when we live in that with that, I think we're free.
Mm-hmm.
I truly think you're free when you don't have those trappings of, I'm going to do this because Traci is in the room. I'm going to do this because the CEO is here. And I saw that a whole lot. You know, when somebody with power gets in a room, a lot of people start to behave in the way you're supposed to behave around this person. And I saw it with the jokes from the CEO. He comes and says, he makes a joke and it's not funny. It's so not funny. But the entire auditorium is I'm like, am I being sour? Do I want his position? That's why I'm not laughing. No, but that thing wasn't funny. It just wasn't funny. You know, we remember that thing you talked about just now? 3, 4, 5 topics ago, reliance upon. Is that reliance that I'm relying on this guy to keep my job? So what reliance does for me, I become a slave to him. I become a slave.
Yes, exactly. And I'm not authentic within myself.
I'm not authentic with myself, and I go there. And you know what? What always sets me straight? I see Wulwyn. I used to see Wulwyn as the employee, and Wulwyn as the father husband. So every time I was an employee and I was engaged in that place, laughing, I took myself and said, if my family was sitting here at this particular moment, looking at me, knowing that I wasn't laughing because they know what I laugh at. I'm corny, I'm quirky, but that thing that guy said, and so they would look at me and say, but Dad, you're being fake. Because Verlin would put me on a spot. Jazz, Wulwyn would be kind of, Dad. But I'm imagining the people who are in my corner saying, you're not being authentic. That's not something to laugh at, you know. So that's one of my aids, right? When I find myself in a position where I have to process what I'm doing.
Mhm.
I think and say, this isn't me. I will not go and not be me because of you. No,
Love
I
that.
can't. I can't. And I
I
think
love
until
that.
Tracy, until we begin to to not clap for the opponent who beats me, or no, not even beats me, the choice. Other people voted for it, or it happens with LeBron James at the end of the championship. He walks off
Mhm.
and he's lost. The other guy wins, and he walks up, doesn't shake hands, and people are like, why doesn't he shake hands? That's on sportsman. Dude is hurting.
In
I'm
that
hurting.
moment,
In that moment, I am
you
hurting.
give them a half hour and they'll go out there and shake. But in that moment, they're being authentically real. They're being who
Yes.
they are in the emotional state so that they don't, what happens when we push aside the emotion in order to show up in the box and make everybody happy is that emotion gets put in that bag that we drag along with us until we're willing to actually address it. It goes back to what we just said. Look at it straight in the eye. If Angelina, I keep changing her name, Angela Bassett.
Angela.
If Angela Bassett hadn't allowed herself to feel that real emotion in that moment, she would have dragged it with her. We need to
Mm,
feel it to heal it. We need to feel it and let it go to release it.
mm, mm,
And so she allowed herself to feel it so she could release it. And then I'm sure, even a half hour later, she was feeling differently because, to your point, she allowed herself to be free from the expectations of the public eye, right?
mm,
Of
mm,
society, of what she should be doing or shouldn't be doing. No, she should be doing exactly what she's feeling.
mm,
She didn't
mm.
act on it. She didn't throw a temper tantrum. She didn't do anything we could have really said, ooh, that was a little questionable. She
Yes.
felt. That's all she was doing. She was feeling, and we're going to come at her. But then at the same time, we're going to put posts up about the importance of emotional intelligence. We need be emotionally intelligent. And you just downed this person for being emotionally intelligent. She was probably being the most emotionally intelligent we've seen in the entire week.
Mm,
Right?
mm,
And so we need to understand, just like with equity, diversity, equity, and inclusion, we need to understand what being emotionally intelligent actually looks like. Right? Not just talking about it. People saying, oh, we should do this and we should do that, and leadership should be. Half the time when you ask these same people who are talking and writing these articles about something they don't even understand, you ask them, well, how? How should that look? In real time,
mm,
how? No clue.
mm. Wow.
No
Wow.
clue. Because,
Wow.
and I'm not judging it, I'm just saying we are very quick to say what should happen, and we're not, because we're not doing it ourselves. We don't trust ourselves, therefore we don't trust others, and therefore it's easier to judge and saying it should be this when really it's that. It's
Mm,
like if we just spend more time paying attention to, wow, that was different, instead of just judging Angela, we realize, oh, she wasn't just, that was different. What's really going on there?
mm, mm.
And take some time, not just because it's not what we expect, but maybe dive deeper and recognize what it's really about. And
Wow.
then when we see something like this, we can celebrate it.
Wow. Mm.
I celebrate her. I think she's the winner in all of this. I really do. I think
Wow.
she's the winner because she was the most, well, I'm sure Jamie Lee Curtis was pretty authentic in her happiness as well. I
Oh
can't
yeah.
say
Oh
anything
yeah.
about her. But I think as far as people's judgment and what Angela was actually doing, she's the winner.
Wow. Wow. And I think time always provides the best summary
Yeah,
of our actions.
sure.
That I think I can't. You talked about, there were two things I said. One was the Angela Bassett. And I think the other was, I think it was let others be disappointed, and not you being slicing yourself into multiple parts. I know we're in the dessert phase now. We have roughly 6 more minutes This stuff goes by too fast.
It does. It really does. I know. Well, and I think when you start talking about, I mean, at least it feels important to us, right? When you talk about
Mhm.
important things, there's no time. I mean, it's also the timeline
Mm,
that we're accustomed to is Newtonian time, and that's linear. And time, in actuality, at least in my belief, is more what Einstein believed, right? The quantum timeline, which is not a line at all. That it all just merges because it starts to feel very all encompassing.
yeah, yeah. For those of you who may not know Tracy, if you rewind from this place to roughly 5 minutes back, if you, it has to be rewind back. Come on, why did I say rewind back? If you go back 5 minutes, you would see her when she was talking about diversity and equity and true self. Tracy, you did it again. You started to enunciate. You started to, you were,
I get that.
you were that bull in the china shop, sister. I saw you. I was like, "Oops, she's there. I'm gonna keep quiet." And honestly, when you get to that point, it's your passion
Oh, for
that
sure.
that passion comes out, and it's fiery.
It's fierce.
It's
It's fierce.
fierce. It's and I, you know, I stopped and I said I'm going to keep this moment, right? Because when you're seeing someone operating in their passion, is seeing Michael Jordan play basketball.
Mm-hmm.
It's seeing Bill Gates creating Microsoft and doing what he did with it, right? It's when you're in your passion and you can observe it, it's something amazing. You
Mm.
didn't stutter, not that you stutter. You didn't pause. You It was spewing out. When I say spewing out, it was just flowing out. I'm like, yes, yes, yes.
Aw.
So I'm just gonna talk for a quick second on let others be disappointed, and you are gonna take the rest of this wrap up, and take us home. Let others be disappointed. I think it's an idea that should become concrete, should become physical. It shouldn't be uh, something that you say, but let others be disappointed in that I am going to be my best self. And in being my best self, as much as I'm not selfish, but in order for me to serve, others will have to be disappointed for a while
Mm-hmm.
until I can get to that point to become that servant leader, that person who can come out and be my best.
Mm.
Uh, Tracy, I'm going to come back with goodbye at the 10 seconds to 1 or 10 seconds to 5. So you got the floor, sister. Take us.
Oh, I love that.
Mm,
First of all, I think you just summed it up really well. I think we should entitle it "Let Others Be Disappointed."
yeah.
Um, because that really does sum it up, and also I want to thank you for recognizing the fierceness, because that's something I've really embraced in myself, is that I know where my passions and purpose lie. I had one of the greatest compliments in an email yesterday when somebody said, who had just met me, they're like, "It is very clear you know who you are."
Oof.
And that's exactly my response. I was like, whew, because I do feel that's true. I mean, now
Yeah.
doesn't mean I won't have iterations of me as I continue to age and go through life, but I do know who I am now. And I do know
Yes.
I know what I'm good at. I know what I'm clearly not good at. I know what my lane is. I know what it isn't. And that has taken a lot of intentional work. And I'm proud of that. And, when I see things that are out of alignment, I get fierce. And for so long in my life, others tried to tamp me down and stick me in a box, as happens to most visionaries,
Mm,
because people, family doesn't want you to stick out because they want you to fit in and they don't want you to be hurt and all those things. It's because of, they're trying to care for you and keep you secure. But it really is very toxic in a lot of ways, and in ways we're not aware. And so when we do that to others, but then when we do that to ourselves, it's even
mm,
worse. And
mm,
I really did build a lot of resistance to the world at large, because they kept trying to make me who I wasn't in my perception, in my experiences. And yet to be able to heal that resistance and not be in resistance, to be with people and just smile and know deep inside it's not personal. They're actually just really trying to care for me or trying to meet me in that box, right? Because that's what they know.
Yeah.
That I can be in that space and still retain who I am. I can be with others and not resist their boxes, but just choose not to be in them.
Yeah.
And I think that is such I feel like it's a huge celebratory place that I find myself now, because now I feel I can really make so much more of an impact than I was trying to do. It's like one-armed fighting, where I'm like, because my arm is tied behind my back because of all the resistance that I was dealing with over here while I was trying to make a difference in the world.
Yeah.
Now I have both hands free.
Wow. Amen. Ladies and gentlemen, eavesdroppers, on that note, we say EP4 is done. Thank you so much, Traci. March 15, another good one. Let others be disappointed. We love y'all.
Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you, Wulwyn.
Woo!